When we decide to build, we are required to assume a posture that says that we are carving, cutting, and constructing something much bigger than ourselves. Building and maintaining a business is no different. It requires that we nurture a tenacity that we've never had, that we pace ourselves, and that we show up with all the resilience we can master. And while we work to be successful and become master of our universe, we are sure to experience the occasional dance with failure, self-doubt, exhaustion, burnout even. My guest today is a living example of the tenacity of which we speak. He has experienced the isolation, the anxiety, the drive, the self-doubt, the success, and the vulnerability that comes with building a business in equal measure. But he stayed the course and is today the manager and leader of one of the most successful businesses in the fashion industry. I learned so much talking to Mr. Kwaku Bediako Oduro, and I'm almost certain that you will learn as much.
My name is Kwaku Bediako, founder and creative director of Chocolate Clothes. I started designing. I started designing when I was born, far away in Port Harcourt, in Nigeria. I was a creative kid. I used to draw a lot, sketch a lot. I think till date, people in my primary and GSS close friends still remember me of the funny cartoon characters I used to come up with. But essentially, yes, I've been a creative person right from birth till date, and so setting up Chocolate Clothes, or Chocolate Clothes Global, which is now called, wasn't too surprising, wasn't too far-fetched, because it's been in the genes. Not this genes, but in the genes. Where do I spend most of my time? So a couple of years ago, I built up an idea of having a sanctuary, a place where I could have my peace of mind, draw inspiration, and most importantly, entertain like-minded folks, like-minded leaders, and people who are in sync with my vision and where I want to go. And so you can say 80% of the time, anytime I'm in Ghana, I spend there. I get in touch with nature. I sketch a lot there. I love biking as well, so usually I like going out of town with a bike, and normally that's where I end up going. Also, I spend a lot of intimate time with my family. I think that family gives me grounding, and I love every part of family time because it's just very calm. It keeps me sane. I have an amazing wife who's like constantly, making sure that I'm not always on the edge. And my son, who's like a twin of my dad, and just like my G. So I think essentially that's what it is. But again, I love what I do generally, so I spend a lot of time doing work. As I said in the beginning, I've always been a creative chap, and growing up, I always wondered. I remember back in class, people keep on asking, what do you want to be in future? Typical pilot, doctor, lawyer, nurse. Okay. Etc. But I always was not too certain on what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do, which is I knew I didn't want to be a banker. I didn't want to be not a 9-to-5 person, because I don't understand when people say 9-to-5. But just I was not like your traditional kind of like person who will go like, oh, okay, I want to go this route and be a doctor. So although I read science, I always knew that I was going to end up in the arts. I was going to end up being an entertainer, one way or the other, you know. I love dancing. Sorry? Okay. Don't leave me, don't leave me. Yeah, so, you know, growing up, I used to dance. I've just been a social person. I really love dancing. I really love music. At some point, I wanted to be an actor, funny enough. And so when I finished uni, in uni, I did a lot of script writing in movies. But most importantly, I started basically the idea of designing when I was in secondary school. I started designing cars, started designing buildings. At some point, I thought I was going to even end up doing architecture. And so when I finished uni and I ended up in a marketing communication agency, it was such a life-changing moment for me. I had such great inspiration from my bosses, who actually nurtured my thoughts, my being, and got me to appreciate or define or develop myself more. And so, you know, branding became a key part of my life, brand building. And, you know, in that process, I realized that I had a knack for not just designing buildings or cars, but clothing, just designing in general. So at that time, my sister and we all lived in Accra at that time. She's a big fashionista, you know, kept on coming to me, Kwaku, Charlie, you know, I'm going for this wedding, what can I do? You know, blah, blah. I started giving her ideas and, you know, idea up an idea. Another key part of the story was growing up, my mom used to sew. She used to, you know, for fun. She trained all of us, you know, we learned so many life skills, right? But clothing and dressmaking was an integral part of us growing. And so it was so interesting when my sister was coming back to me, asking me for ideas about clothing. So I was like, you know what? let me sketch more and more and see what I can do, you know. And then, you know, gradually, the idea moved from just making clothes for my sister and then, you know, her friends and then some of my workers, like my colleagues at work and then their girlfriends, etc. So I decided that, you know what, let me just go back to finishing, you know, fine-tuning what I've already learned as a kid, although I wasn't a big fan of actually. So then, so get this, I kept on going around. The ad agency was around Asylum Down. So between Asylum Down, Dabraka, Ring Road, Odona, that was my path, right? And I knew Dabraka very well because years back, I spent about 3 years there. That's where I learned how to bike. That's where I learned a lot of my street smartness, etc. And so it was easy, you know, relating with the people, you know, relating with the way of life there, etc. For me to get what I wanted to get out of, you know, tailoring, etc. And so when I officially started full-time and got a blessing from my former boss, Mr. Philip Ayesu, it was just very clear that with my notion on how to build brands, just grow brands, just pretty much all my experience in life, I was going to put that into building the biggest lifestyle brand in the world from Africa, aka chocolate. And it's just been very, very interesting because it started off as a one-man business, and today the different stakeholders is just beyond imagination. And the interesting thing is we just begun. I mean, it's basically, once you become an adult, it's just generally challenging. But to be an adult in this part of the world is twice the headache.
Why do you say that?
Well, I say that because, I mean, it's a developing world. You know, the world deems it as a third world country. And so access to a lot of basic needs and basic things are not just available. You need to be of a certain pedigree or get to certain aspects of your life to be able to afford a certain basic lifestyle. And so, you know, it's challenging. You know, I mean, in Ghana, we say hustle. You need to hustle your way up. Whereas in other parts of the world, you just need to be able to just follow structure, follow setting like a course, even access to credit, for example. It might not be the very best, especially given how we've been oriented here in this part of the world. But there are very basic necessities, like, for example, yesterday or over the past few weeks, or maybe back then, how easy is it to get a brand new car? It is so easy. An 18-year-old who has a license can just walk into any dealership and walk away with a brand new car. And within the next 5 years, we won't have issues. But even there are policies that make sure that in the next 2 years, you're able to even change that car for even a more modern version of it. House accommodation, a great neighborhood where you can just chill, whether you're a bachelor or you have a family. So I think generally the way and standard of life outside or in the West is usually much easier in terms of sipping into the world, right? Of getting your life started. Whereas in a place like Ghana, Africa, it's just tough. I mean, my first 2-3 years after university was not a joke. I mean, I used to see myself in the mirror and ask whether I was sane or not. I mean, working 3 jobs, like your morning job with your firm, starting this chocolate bit that starts, let's say, after 7 or 8. And remember, the advertising agency, there's no closing time. So at 10 o'clock, you're now probably heading out to your own gig. By the time you get there, you're tired. You probably wake up around 12 or 1, trying to figure out what the tailors can do, what they've done, leave my comments, leave. Sometimes I don't even have cash to come home. You have to walk. I don't know how to describe it, but if you were driving a journey that when you can use an hour, you are walking. Can you imagine? I can spend like 3 hours walking from like a place like Wager to Dome because I don't have any access. There's no church at that time. Like it's just a real crazy. And this is even me in Accra. This is me in the capital city. This is not me in some village somewhere. So I guess just generally, it's just very challenging being a young man or being a young lady in Ghana, in Africa. Although I would say that it's much better than other places. And so, sometimes you count your blessings. But also, a lot of people, there's this myth that, when you own your own business, things are like much easier. No. I think a lot of people are not informed. I think a lot of people are living in a different world and they feel like it's easier, or this is a shorter route. I don't want to take orders from. No, it's actually worse if you look at it. It's actually worse if you look at it. I mean, at least when you work for people, you need to get to work, let's say at 9. You have entitled to your lunch breaks. You are done by 5. If you're a very studious worker, maybe you want to be there for about another 2 hours. By 7, you are done. You can choose you have the luxury of going to meet up boys and have a drink. There's so many extracurricular stuff you can do because you are done with work at 7 or at 5, etc. You can choose not to pick calls because it's after working hours. You don't have that luxury when you own your own business, especially when you're a startup. You don't. You adhere to your client's timing. If your client is telling you that he gets home at 10, so come to his house at 11 o'clock, you get to his house at 11 p.m. If he wants to keep you up to 1 a.m., he keeps you up to 1 a.m. You have no control. Well, there's also the other option of you being a non-successful entrepreneur, which is me, I can't be there to that time. I need my beauty sleep. No, it doesn't work that way. And so it gets very, very tough because you deal with other people's problems. That then becomes your problem. You deal with, so take this. When you're not an entrepreneur, you work for a firm, there's so much cushioning and so much security people are given. So, for example, that give or take, at the end of the month, you're taking your salary. That give or take, if, let's say, there's COVID, you you're bounded by a contract, etc., you still need to get paid. But when you work for yourself and there's COVID, what do you do when people are not coming to you and bringing you business? It's tough. So then, if you have to run into savings, if you have to, there's no help, there's no cushioning, there's no security. And also it goes back down to certain structures, etc. I mean, I'll doff my hat to, what happened during COVID. I know that at least there was a fund allocated to certain likes of, businesses, etc. But generally, such deals are not there. So when you have an issue, there's nothing like government bread. You need to deal with it. And so that in itself is a challenge. And, it's depressing. Especially when you have a chunk full of people who depend on your vision, who you've promised, who you've convinced that, hey, you know what, this is where we are going. And then all of a sudden, because there's a canker, there's a problem, you're forced to probably be a bit not straight. Brings its own problem. You're not able to sleep at nights. If there's any challenges, it hits you directly. As I said, there's no cushioning. So then you realize that you don't have peace of mind. You never have peace of mind. Also, with regards to a lot of when you deal with individuals, it's a different conversation. The more you deal with individuals on a personal level, the more you realize that not everybody is as straightforward as you are. So, you deal with a lot of people who are not straight people. They do a job for the person, have an agreement, even bounded by even an invoice or paperwork, and they'll go contrary to it. Meanwhile, the job has been done. Workers are on your neck for you to pay them. Vendors are on your neck for you to pay them. Stories. So that in itself is also very challenging and stressful, and has, attacks your peace of mind. And I think the most revealing aspect of me beginning my business was dealing with friends and family. Growing up, I heard this saying, which was, business booms when friends and family pay. It was a thing, but I never really understood it till me starting my business. There are a lot of entitlement. A lot of friends and family feel like they support you by coming for free stuff. They don't have to pay. But I knew you when you started this. There's just a generalized feel of entitlement by friends and family. And especially when you start gaining strides, it gets worse. It gets even worse to the point where some friends and family also feel like they were with you in maybe at a very young age. You're friends with people for like very young age, so there's always that feeling. And I know it's human that you wish the best for all your friends, but you can't wish the best for all your friends and not also wish same for you. And so when it looks as if, let's say, a friend of yours is constantly moving forward, and in that friend's eye, it doesn't seem sane, there's a little bit of a, I know sometimes it creates a little bit of problems, but it's generally like, that's what life is all about. It's about thresholds, it's about the times and seasons. There's generally, there's a truth, there's an insight that you need certain capital to start a certain line of business. I would say that a lot of people look for a premium seed capital to start businesses, whereas it's not always the case that you need to start your business with, let's say, 100,000. I started my business with just a month's pay. That time was 200 Ghana cedis, 2 million. $35. 25 pounds. 30 euros. Essentially. 200 Ghana cedis. In yen. I've never been to Japan before. I've never been to France before.
Okay, so.
But essentially, you get a drift. It's also very frustrating because sometimes you want, and I think it goes back to planning and structuring. Back then I kind of like knew it, but it's when you're going through the process, it's difficult. But now I've come to understand that was the best thing I had done, which was to actually plan and structure your line of thinking where, what you want to do, etc., put down policies, etc. And so you realize that, okay, if I'm going to take 100,000 Ghana cedi loan right now, and then where I am as a business, I can't churn out a certain threshold, then I'll end up working for the bank. Things like that. But generally, it's still very, very difficult to get seed funds, especially when you feel like, there's a lot of traffic coming in, and so you want to expand maybe by 10%. Like, it's still very, very difficult because the money is not readily available. People are not readily paying, friends and family are not paying, especially in the initial process. You have very few people who understand the vision. And then it gets to loans, accessing of loans, very, very tough. And then, you get to the points where you go like, wow, okay, now you have 50 orders. You don't even have the funds to even buy, because vendors are saying that, no, like, who are you to come and get credits? No, buy cash. So it's just very, challenging. And so it gets quite depressing, gets quite, I remember one of my friends telling me that when we were kids, and I was the skinniest kid you ever meet. And when I was about 4 or 5, and two of my friends who lived not too far away from me, so they'll, these friends will come and call me when they are being bullied, and then they'll come and tell me that, so is beating them, so they want me to come and help. I don't understand. I'm the skinniest guy in the class. Why are you coming to get me? So I'm the skinniest guy. Why you? I'm the skinniest guy. Why are you getting me to go fight these people? Because most of the time it might be like a bigger person or an adult, etc. So I'm like, But I guess relating that to today and the question you asked, it's just interesting that it tells me a lot. It tells me that even as a kid, I always had that choleric part of me. Everyone knows the sanguine part of me. Everyone knows the extroverted Kwaku. Everyone knows the hey, giddy giddy, loud ass guy, But a lot of people never really got the chance to see that choleric side, that leadership side, that meticulous side, that structured person. And so, quite interestingly, these are all the elements which is coming into play in building a brand like chocolate and taking this business global. Because then you realize that a key part of being resilient, a key part of being ambitious, a key part of being a visionary, a key part of being very passionate about what you do and loving what you do, a key part of success goes back in the kind of person you are, how disciplined you are eventually, how you're able to see things, So I guess that's what that's like me keeping it short. All these traits is a key part of who I am as a person. And so I don't gamble with it. A lot of people will say I'm a bit rigid. That's because they know too much of my sanguine self. But the fact still remains, business is business, leisure is leisure. I'm the craziest person you will meet during leisure periods. But I'm the most straight person you meet during business and when it calls for it. So we need to be able to appreciate that. And when, you get yourself into a room with people, they just don't look at the dreadlocks. Sorry, they're uneven dreadlocks. sliding on my spectacles. But, you also know that there's that aspect of me on the table. And that's what I think, has contributed in getting chocolate to this point. Am I content? Far from that. Far from that. It appears sometimes though. Why? Because, and it's very interesting. I read this earlier in the year. I went for All Stars in the US and met Fabulous, one of like the Ace rappers in the US. And interestingly, I immediately went on his page. I was like, how many followers? I'm trying to figure out, can we work together? What can we do? And then I saw a post he put out. He was like, kick it with winners. It's like when you make it, or just generally kick it with winners. So that when you talk about winning, it doesn't sound like you're bluffing. I hate negative energy. I can't stand negative energy around me. Period.